we're going to go ahead and keep moving. We have our patient story presentation today, who you guys are in for a real treat to hear from Kristyn Beecher. Kristyn, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Hi.
Awesome. Yay. Okay. So before I introduce Kristyn, I just briefly want to acknowledge the many patient advocates that are on this Zoom meeting today. This is a very special group of patient advocates. People that were invited here today are people who have been strong leaders and committed advocates over time. And every single one of their stories is amazing. I know I always say that, but I truly mean it. And so I wish we had time to hear many more of their stories. So no pressure, Kristyn. But while Kristyn tells her own story, I truly believe that there are many overlapping themes that will resonate across many people's perspectives living with sleep disorders today. So let me go ahead and get your slides up. Hold on here. Okay. Oops. And I will go ahead and introduce you. Kristyn Beecher is a news producer and a content creator from Houston, Texas. She was diagnosed with narcolepsy at 24, but has lived with the symptoms for many years before that. As a speaker with Project Sleep's Rising Voices of Narcolepsy program, she tells her own story for the first time and hopes to let others living with narcolepsy know they are not alone. So please take it away, Kristyn.
Oh, thank you. Hi, everyone. So I'll just get right into my slides. Thank you so much for being here and, well, being where you are, but we're all here together. My name is Kristyn. I am from Houston, Texas. I'm an only child. I am super close to my parents. They are the most important people in my life and honestly way cooler than me. I like to say that. So when I was a kid, I really, really loved like reading and writing. Those were my absolute favorite things to do. And through reading, I was able to learn a lot about Black history, and a lot of that wasn't taught in schools. So I had to find other ways to get that information. And from reading about Black history, I was just able to find out all of these other different marginalized groups that really helped to build the foundation of this country, but their stories aren't talked about a lot. And that really helped me understand that that's what I wanted to do in my life, which was to tell people's stories. And from that, I was like addicted to the news, even at like 4 years old, way more than any small child should love the news. So I used to sit in my little plastic Elmo chair and tape up on the wall like a newspaper or a magazine and pretend that I was reading the news on a teleprompter. And that love of journalism and storytelling followed me throughout my whole life. And so people would probably describe me as a sleepy kid for my entire life. But I think that my symptoms of like falling asleep in class and then almost everywhere else really started when I was in high school. So I was an overachiever and I got really good grades, but it was only because I had a really great memory, not because I was a good student. If I had 7 class periods in high school, I slept in all 7. And I couldn't really take notes because I would fall asleep. So my notes often looked like that on the screen, which is just a mess of scribbles and you can't really read them. So I couldn't study them when I got home. And so that was what my life was like in high school. You can go to the next slide. And so I was really, really fortunate to graduate high school and got a full ride to Hampton University, which is a historically Black college in Hampton, Virginia. At Hampton, I studied journalism, and I moved to Virginia and my sleepiness came right along with me. But I was still able to do pretty much all things that a normal college student would do. I was just sleeping during a lot of it. So in that picture of me in the blue choir robe, I sang in the Hampton University Gospel Choir. And even though it was really loud in the alto section, I was asleep in rehearsal and I was asleep at performances sometimes, briefly. And so I look really happy in this picture. This was in 2015 at graduation. It wasn't my graduation, but I was singing at commencement. But just out of frame is the late Congressman John Lewis. He had given the commencement speech that year, and it was a really powerful speech about how he was preparing to walk across the Edmund Pettus Bridge on Bloody Sunday in Selma. And he was just talking about what his life was like at that time. And I could not stay awake. And I was in the front row of like right behind him. So I was very close. I knew that people could see me, and I was so upset with myself because this civil rights icon was sitting right in front of me. And I was just ashamed that I feel like, why can't you just even be bothered to stay awake? And his speech was only 20 minutes, but I don't remember much of it. You can go to the next slide. This next picture is a moment that it brings me a lot of shame when I think about it. I was fortunate to be invited to the Congressional Black Caucus Annual Legislative Conference as a youth ambassador with this organization here in Houston. I was a sophomore in college, and we took a lot of kids and showed them about the political process. And so while I was there, I attended a forum on police brutality and reform. And so for me, 2015 kind of feels like that summer felt a lot like this summer. Trayvon Martin's death was still on everyone's mind. Michael Brown had been killed the year before. And then just a few months before that forum, Sandra Bland died. In Texas, and I met her mom. She was at the forum, and I met her outside. Her name is Miss Geneva Ville-Reed, and she just told me, you're my daughter now. And I was really excited to hear her speak. And I got into the forum, and I kept dozing off. I could not stay awake. And I remember seeing all the cameras around, and I was like, Kristyn, girl, you better wake up because you're going to be asleep on the news in DC. But I just couldn't stay awake, and I felt so upset because I had just met her mom. But that was in 2015. Fast forward to 2018. I started getting all these text messages of a screenshot right here. I am the person closest to the camera with the glasses, and I'm asleep in an HBO documentary called Sandra Bland, Say Her Name, The Life and Death of Sandra Bland. And all of my friends noticed that was me. I was sleeping, and although I don't look like I'm sleeping, that's kind of what my narcolepsy sleepiness looks like. I tilt my head back when I was feeling myself going to sleep so that if I did fall asleep, I wouldn't look like my head dropped into my chest. And so apart from just the really traumatic events that film represents, it also represents a time in my life when I was so upset at myself because I just kept thinking about all the opportunities that I was afforded, but I just kept missing them. I just missed out on so many things because I had no clue why I couldn't stay awake for them. And I honestly felt like, I'm unappreciative, or why can't I care enough about something to stay awake? Because I thought that if I wasn't engaged enough, that's why I was falling asleep. And I was really hard on myself. You can go to the next slide. And so I graduated in 2017. And after my first job in Florida, I was producing there for 2 years, and I was working overnights. I got a job here in Houston, the 8th largest media market. I was one of the youngest people in the station producing, and the stress level was so high because I was in the big leagues and I was working overnight. So I was working from 10 p.m. to 7 in the morning. And at the same time that I first got the job, I was diagnosed with an autoimmune condition called Sjogren's syndrome, and that just created this added level of immense fatigue. And so a lot of news jobs, especially if you work the morning shift, if your show comes on in the morning, you have to work at night to put that show on the air. And I couldn't make it through one shift without 2 or 3 naps. I was hiding in the bathroom, taking naps and putting alarms on my phone. I was falling asleep at my desk. I was drinking soda. I was drinking Dr. Pepper has 200 milligrams of caffeine, I'll never forget. And I was taking caffeine pills, 200 milligrams of those. So 2 of those, 400 milligrams of caffeine, washing it down with a 200 milligram soda, and then drinking a giant Yeti cup full of coffee. and I was still falling asleep. And one night I'd only been at work for a few hours, and I was really tired because I couldn't really sleep through the day. I didn't get a lot of sleep. And I remember we had really high ceilings in there, and there were rafter ceilings with like exposed ducts. And I kept seeing like flashes of like a bird flying around, and I could hear the bird's wings flapping. It was really quiet. It's only like 5 people in the station at like 3 a.m. And I kept asking everybody, do y'all hear these birds? And everyone was like, what are you talking about? There are no birds. And I was like, no, guys, someone has opened the door and a bird has gotten in the station. We need to get the bird out of the station. And everybody, they were looking at me like, who is this woman that we hired? She sleeps all the time. She's new. And now she is seeing birds. But I was like, I know that I'm not imagining these birds. So I just stopped asking people about them. But I'm like, y'all are not paying attention. Y'all are too focused on your show. You need to be focused on these birds that are flying around us. And so I just convinced myself that I was just going to keep the birds to myself. And slowly people that worked with me started telling my bosses like, hey, Kristyn's falling asleep, and I would deny it. And one day I was in the control room, honestly, just a bad place to fall asleep. I was in the control room, which is that picture of me on the screen. I'm in the control room right there. And my boss came and tapped me on my shoulder. She had seen me sleeping, and woke me up. And honestly, I never felt more embarrassed, because for a lot of my life, my sleepiness it affected me personally, but other people didn't seem to mind. And I felt like I was going to get fired because they kept saying, we need to figure out how you can stay awake. Sleeping is not acceptable. And so I went to get a sleep study, and I was diagnosed with narcolepsy at age 24. So I thought that I couldn't have narcolepsy, even though people had joked about it before, because as we're saying, even though I'm tired right now, I'm not going to fall asleep in the middle of me talking to you. And so I thought that narcolepsy was what the representation of it is on TV, is just, hi, my name is Kristyn, and then I fall asleep. And because of that, my diagnosis honestly surprised me a bit. But I was able to learn through my diagnosis that narcolepsy is a chronic neurological disorder that impairs the brain's ability to regulate sleep-wake cycles. And it affects 1 in 2,000 people. So that's about 200,000 Americans and 3 million people worldwide. So the symptoms vary by person. I experience excessive daytime sleepiness, which is like every story that I just told you, and hypnagogic hallucinations. So that's what those birds were. I was falling asleep. There were not birds in the station, but there are hallucinations that happen as you are falling asleep. I experienced sleep paralysis and disrupted nighttime sleep. Like last night, I'm very tired this morning because I woke up every hour. And while I don't have cataplexy, which means that I have narcolepsy without cataplexy, or narcolepsy type 2. And I'm really encouraged by the research that says that narcolepsy type 1, narcolepsy with cataplexy, is caused by a lack of hypocretin, but there's a lot less known about narcolepsy type 2. And that's why I want to keep advocating for research, so that there's research to be found about narcolepsy type 2, and to better understand my disorder. And so there's currently no cure for narcolepsy, but there are treatment options, and it varies widely from medications to scheduling naps and social support, or just improvements in general health. And it often takes a really long time to work that out. For example, I was diagnosed just this past January, and I'm still trying to figure out how it's going to work for me. Medication has not really seemed to improve my symptoms. And on top of that, it comes with side effects that make me not want to take my medication. For example, didn't take it today. And that's why I feel like it's really important that there's more research done, so that we can find more treatment options that can just help everyone, and that treatment options are better understood. You can go to the next slide. So now that I've been diagnosed, which seems like it's been a lot longer, but it's only been since January, most people were not surprised. Like when I told people, there were a lot of texts like, duh, girl, we know. But I've learned not to push myself so hard. So I really wanted to allow more rest in my life. I thought that I should just do what every 25-year-old, I'm 25 now, does, which is go, go, go. But I can't do that. I can't live my life always the way that people without narcolepsy can. And that's okay. So like being able to say that statement and then say the word, that's okay after it is something that I'm very glad now that I have a narcolepsy diagnosis. To just allow myself more grace for the situations where I don't have the energy to do. And so what I thought was normal, which was this grind culture that we have, which is not good for anyone, I just can't participate in that. And I'm okay with that. And I also am very, very, very fortunate to have found this community of people through Project Sleep. And like Julie, it seems like I've known her for way longer than I have. But I can't imagine that I've just not known that there were people out here who have the same, symptoms that I have, who've lived lives just like me. So I'm just very thankful for that. Because of low awareness, even amongst physicians and misperceptions, there's an average of 8 to 15 years between symptom onset and diagnosis. And it's also estimated that a majority of the people living with narcolepsy don't even know they have it because they may be underdiagnosed or misdiagnosed. For me, that took 10 years between my symptom onset and my diagnosis. And I just know that I was always so tired, but I thought that that level of exhaustion was normal. I thought that everyone felt super tired everywhere they went. And so I pushed myself to just work harder, to just grind more, to do everything that everyone else was doing, because I had no clue what sleep health was. And that means that I didn't know how unhealthy I really was. And so now that I'm aware of just how much sleep actually affects everything that we do, I think about how crazy it is, honestly, that I've walked around for at least 10 years without a diagnosis for a sleep disorder. And that lack of awareness leaves so many people like me feeling like confused. I didn't know what was wrong with my body for 10 years. And I would really just like to see that picture where it says sleep health is health. I want everyone to understand that sleep health is actual health. And, so if I had seen somebody who looked like me tell a story that sounded like mine, I might have gone to my doctors earlier. I'm sure my parents would have taken my sleepiness more seriously. And so as a journalist, I'm so aware of the importance of the story. I know how one story can change the world and change people's lives. So that's why today and every day that I get a chance to, I'm going to keep telling my story, because if I can be a person that can help someone get answers sooner than 10 years, I'm never going to shut up. And I just want to say, first of all, thank you, Julie, for like just being you and like existing. And I want to thank everyone on this call, all of these super brilliant people who I know have so much that they can do to help the sleep community and help raise awareness and research for sleep disorders. So thank you guys so much for listening to me.
Thank you, Kristyn. Okay, I'm going to try not to cry. Trying. Thank you so much for sharing today. And you have about 1 million comments on the chat, so you can check out all the love and support and how much your story is resonating with so many people here today. And I still can't believe that Kristyn was diagnosed in January, like when we were, practicing this. It feels like I've known you for so long. So you've made a huge impact already. And we're grateful to have you as part of our community and to remind us of why we are here and why we are doing this. So in the interest of time, I think we will go ahead and keep moving forward, and please check out all those comments and chats, Kristyn, to see all the love and see if there's any questions for you there as well.